Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I want to show you how you can use CHP to make your company more secure. How you can use AI, it doesn't necessarily have to be CHP, to stay safer. So this is the free option, so to speak. Of course, that's not ideal. It's definitely better to have a cybersecurity expert and, in any case, an IT team. Yes, but it's definitely still an option for detecting phishing emails, identifying malware, and of course, it's also a way to learn a bit more about cybersecurity and hacking. So I've asked TGP a few questions now, and the first question was how companies can use and implement artificial intelligence to protect themselves from cyber attacks or attacks in general. And protect might not be the right word. Rather, it's about making the important decisions and taking the right steps in advance so that attackers have a really hard time. So you can use ChatGPT in such a way that it helps you identify fake websites and shops, as well as detect phishing emails and ransomware, and that you also train your employees to some extent so that they don't click on or open these links and attachments. He also suggested here, as I just mentioned, that you can recognize these attacks and that you can then respond appropriately to them in the future. But that actually already relates to point two. That you combine antivirus protection, whether it's Windows Defender or Bitdefender. I'll say more about that in a moment. So in principle, the most important thing is that you can use artificial intelligence to detect whether it's malware, whether it's fake emails, or whether it's fake websites. And that you can also further educate your employees and yourself to some extent. As I said, that's the optimal way. COSIA and many others have significantly better resources here. But it is definitely the most cost-effective way to learn more about cybersecurity and hacking. All right, then we have point two. Which antivirus manufacturers are already using artificial intelligence? And actually, at this point, all antivirus manufacturer tools now work with artificial intelligence. That includes Windows Defender as well. So it lists here Sophos, Bitdefender, Kaspersky, ESET, Avast, Avira. Those not listed here include Microsoft, Defender, and so on. They all now rely on artificial intelligence in the cloud, so basically AI-based, and this artificial intelligence helps, how should I explain this, to immediately recognize these emails, these phishing emails, and sort them into the spam folder in advance. Of course, and you should also know that it doesn't always work with new types of ransomware or new types of Trojans. Here it's simple. This antivirus tool is a help, a support, but it simply can't detect new viruses. And they're often so cleverly disguised that the antivirus protection just doesn't catch them. And it doesn't matter whether you use Microsoft Defender or another antivirus tool, because it can be so sophisticated that these antivirus manufacturers can't do anything about it, or rather their software can't. You simply need to have an eye for it to be able to say, okay, I can recognize myself that this is a phishing attempt or ransomware and act accordingly. But the trend is that more and more AI tools are being used both by antivirus manufacturers and by the browsers themselves, whether it's Chrome, Microsoft Edge, and all those other browsers. And of course, on the other hand, that's also a security risk that these browsers use AI tools and implement AI features. And of course, these are interesting for hackers because they have security vulnerabilities. I've already written an article about this. Especially the new Comet browser and the upcoming Atlas browser are not secure in this regard. As a company, you should really only use this to try it out and say, we want to conduct deep research, we just want to test the whole thing. But please, not necessarily in the office, where you then say, we're using this as our main browser, and all our data and everything runs through it. In my opinion, that's generally a pretty bad idea, especially for companies, because these browsers aren't built like regular browsers where you have your bookmarks, your sidebar, and your add-ons. Instead, you interact directly with an AI agent and also entrust it with sensitive data. Yes, and that's why you should really think carefully about using it as a secondary browser. Or, as I said, only for testing purposes. Then I asked him, how can employees use AI tools to better recognize phishing emails or generally detect malware more effectively? And now he answered that employees can recognize this if you take a screenshot of the email and, for example, showing it to ChatGPT or discussing it with it. I've done that in the past too, where I asked, is this a real email from this old sweepstakes? Or Is this a genuine email from someone responding to a job application and sending an attachment? And that's actually a pretty good thing, because I'm also just skeptical about opening private attachments. It helps when a company replies with an attachment, which is actually very unusual because normally you just respond to the application and don't send an attachment. And of course, with all those other things as well. Sweepstakes was just one of many examples. What I also get quite often these days is the fake email from McAfee telling me I need to renew and update my subscription. And of course, it also involves PayPal, Amazon, and all the others. And the background here, of course, is that people want to intercept your data. That's why it's called a phishing email. So they can capture your password and get access to your information, and in the worst case, even your bank or company data. And AI can really help here if you explain to the AI exactly who the sender is, who is writing here. By not just acting with hashtags and gut feeling, but maybe actually taking a screenshot and saying, take a look at this. Could this be a real email? Or is someone ordering? Is there a risk here of a fake email, of a phishing email? Yes, and of course, this is especially difficult with these newer ones. AI-generated phishing emails, they're harder to spot, they don't have any spelling mistakes. Many are now also working with voice mode, that is, with voice messages. For example, pretending to be the boss. There was a clear case just recently. What did I read in the article? That the Braille in... So basically, she received this message from her boss, and she was supposed to refund or transfer 10,000 euros back to the customer. And it wasn't her boss at all. It was simply an AI-generated voice. Exactly, and she fell for it. And the boss didn't know anything about it either. So you really have to be careful about that. Then there was the fourth question: how can artificial intelligence help with self-education or training employees? And here too, it was clear this is something that benefits not only myself, but also your employees, that AI can help answer very simple questions. What is a phishing email? What is the difference between a gray hat hacker and a black hat hacker? So what are these different types of hackers? Is this actually a hacker or is it something else? So these basic fundamentals about cybersecurity can definitely be taught by ChatGPT or another AI tool. And here, of course, you have to be careful not to rely too much on what ChatGPT says, because as you surely know, it often hallucinates and is prone to making false statements. But in principle, you can definitely learn the basics of cybersecurity with it, whether you want to further educate yourself, your employees, or just have a question about a specific area, like the example with the phishing email. It definitely works. So you can ask ChatGPT anything about this topic, or of course about any other topic as well. You can also use it to conduct deep research. I actually did that the day before yesterday on the topic of the basics of cybersecurity. Explain to me the principle of ethical hacking and give me tips on how small businesses can protect themselves from attacks like malware and ransomware in 2026. And I received a very detailed answer from ChatGPT. The deep research function was the best feature in ChatGPT. I also compared the whole thing with Gemini and with Perplexity AI. And actually, ChatGPT delivered the best results. But of course, you can also try out the different AI tools, ask your questions, conduct deep research, or discuss the topic. You have to try it out for yourself. I can't say that ChatGPT is always the best tool. In my experience, Gemini can do some things better, like programming. It's clearly better at that. And when it comes to very general queries, I also use Leshat from Europe. Especially for generating bits, it's quite good. So you really have to try everything out for yourself. And one more note on the topic of security with AI tools. Of course, AI tools are also vulnerable to hackers. And my biggest weakness, since 2022, it's been, of course, AI. Trusting it with far too much. And now you might say, oh, well, it's just our company data. Or you might think it's nothing private or personal. But even here, you really have to consider, what does ChatGPT know about us and our company? And is it really necessary for us to reveal so much? You don't always want to share everything after all. There are also company secrets and such. And that's something you really have to be careful about. In my view, that's actually the biggest pitfall you should watch out for. But otherwise, AI and ChatGPT are very powerful tools that you can use to protect yourself and your company from cyber fraud in 2026.